Speak up!
Recently, there have been two types of trains that have swept my fascination, that being narrow gauge locomotives and armored locomotives. And what do you get when you combine those two? Well, in today's case, we get the armored Wickham Trolley, or a custom of one that I recently finished. An engine that admittedly was pretty hard to research. I couldn't really find a whole lot of information on it, but still was something that really captured my eye. And when I found a resin body shell for one in 009 scale, pretty quick it was full steam ahead. No pun intended. And today I thought it'd be fun to switch up gears a little bit and take a look at this. It's been a while since I've shown off a custom that wasn't Thomas related, and altogether this is a project that I'm pretty proud of, so hopefully regardless of that you guys will still enjoy. And with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So I think it's best we start with explaining the Wickham Trolley itself. The Wickham Trolley was a railway engineering personal carrier, and was used on British railways as the Type No. 27 gang and inspection trolley. They were first introduced in 1948, and over 600 were built, that being between then and 1990, of which 25 went to the Ministry of Supply, or the MOD, between 1954 and 1960. One was even featured in the 1966 film The Great St. Trinian's Train Robbery, which in part was filmed on the Longmoor Military Railway. Now, as you could have guessed, there were several versions of the Wickham Trolley, but again, the one in interest today is the armored one, and a total of 42 of these units were produced in 1952, this being for use by the British Army and security forces during the Malayan Emergency, intended to prevent sabotage of narrow-gauge rail lines by communist insurgents. The trolley itself was armed with a machine gun turret that was taken from a ferret armored car, and many surviving examples are preserved around the world, specifically in the Royal Malaysian Police Museum, Port Dickinson, the National Army Museum. They're quite spread out, but they're around. They would also see use frequently in convoys during Vietnam. And now we get to the custom I've made of one, which ultimately was an unexpected project. I was browsing a store on eBay known as TinWeb that sold a lot of resin-printed body shells, and the armored Wickham Trolley just so happened to be one. Given that a lot of my modeling recently has been 009 focused, pretty quickly a decision was made, and the shell itself arrived very quickly, so work on the project started pretty fast. This isn't sponsored or anything, but if you guys are interested, I highly recommend TinWeb. Most of the shells are printed in resin, which I highly recommend, so if you're looking for a high-quality print, they're definitely worth taking a look at. This shell was designed to fit on the Kato 109 chassis, and it just so happened that I had one of those spare. The shell itself is two main pieces, that being the body and a turret, and a smaller connecting part that sits on top of the chassis that fits it to the shell. What I also found really cool was the barrel for the turret actually comes in a little 3D printed weapon case, which I thought was a super cool detail for them to add. The barrel itself appears to be made of brass, and I first would start with fitting the barrel to the main turret, fitting the chassis to its shell connector, and then started painting. I would first start with a Rust-Oleum dark gray primer, and then go over that with a Tamiya light gray primer, and honestly kinda liked the look of it, and settled with that being its main color, since there were examples of that in real life. I let that dry for a little bit, and then would go to work with weathering powders. I would start with a rust color, and follow along every corner that the model had. I also would go around to different turret sections, and add a little bit of outpour from that. I would also do the same on its bottom part with the rivets. The main goal was to make it look as used as possible. Once this was done, I would do the same with black weathering powder, and did my best to give it a mix. I would also take the black weathering powder around the body itself, and kinda rub it off to make it look smudgy. And once I had achieved a good level of grime, I took some matte clear enamel to the model to lock those powders in place. Lastly would come painting its lights, which was honestly really simple. All it took was a white paint pen and a red paint pen, and looking at reference pictures to make sure I got their placements right. And with that completed, I permanently fit the turret inside of the shell, or I guess on top, and fit the chassis for test running. And once that was out of the way, the model was complete. And now, should it ever need it, my Skarloey Railway has something to protect it. Or at the very least, I have a fun bit of history to bring with me to Edison, and now to add to the collection. And now that we've talked about how I made this guy, let's go ahead and see it in action. I know this custom is a little different from normal customs I do, but altogether it was a really fun project, and something I hope you guys still enjoy watching. I find myself doing a lot of projects that aren't Thomas related that never really get talked about on the channel, and if you guys are interested, I'm more than happy to change that. I didn't really take any videos of this being made, honestly because I didn't think to, but if you guys would like to see this process done more up close, I'd be more than happy to make more videos on such, so be sure to let me know down in the comments. If you did like this video, be sure to like and subscribe for even more train content. There's always more stuff on the way. And as always, guys, thanks again for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one.